is MBA in India students actually outperform the students who directly go and join the Toronto cohort.
Hi, everybody. My name is Manan Puri, and I'm the co-founder of Dream Compass. Today, I have with me Vijender Trivedi, who is the Director of Student Services and International Relations at Schulich School of Business, York University. Schulich is one of the sought-after business schools for MBA in Canada, and a lot of our students also are planning to apply or have applied. And so we thought of inviting Vijender to this forum to talk about more about Schulich, about the admissions and life in Canada, and a lot more. So thank you, Vijender, for taking out time and speaking with us.
Thank you. Thank you, Man. I'm very happy to be here. Super excited. Thanks for having me.
Great. So let's start with your intro, your background. You've done your MBA from Schulich and you're working at Schulich. So tell us more about, where you're coming from.
Yeah. Thanks for the question. So as Manan mentioned, my name is Vijender Trivedi. I'm the Director of Student Services and International Relations. I'm responsible for actually three things here. First is admissions and recruitment for India campus. We have a program that we run here, MBA in India. And I'm also responsible for the MBA recruitment admissions for the Toronto campus as well. Right. So that's the first thing that I manage and oversee. The second thing that I work on here is marketing and branding Schulich, right? It's important. We have a presence here in India, and it makes sense to focus on marketing and branding and a lot of awareness as well. Right. That's the second thing that I work on. The third thing that I'm responsible for is operations of our Hyderabad campus. So we have a partner here in India, GMR Group, excellent group. And we have been with them for about 11 years now. So a very strong partnership. So operations of our Hyderabad campus is the third pillar that I manage and look at here. Right. But before that, so I moved back to India in 2020. But before that, I worked and lived in Toronto for 9 years after completing my MBA from Schulich. And one thing that I always tell when I meet new people or introduce myself is from day zero, the plan was to move back to India, right? But I had very clear goals. I wanted to spend good amount of time touching multiple or working in multiple industries in Canada. And that's exactly what I did. But I kept my business function constant, right? So marketing, digital marketing was my passion, and I continued to do that. But I worked in multiple industries, right? New to the higher ed space. I mean, now it's been 2 years already, but loving it. And I'm very excited to share my experience and discuss more about Schulich, admissions, life in Canada, etc.
Great. Thank you for that, Vijender. And I'm sure a lot of people, traveling from India would relate to this. They want to come back to India, maybe in the long term, and have questions whether it's possible or not, given that a lot of these schools in Canada are regional and brand is there, etc., etc. So would love to know more about that. So let's start with the program itself. And there's a lot of information on the website, social media, and various forums about it. So anything you would like to tell the aspirants that is not covered already, and something that is just or the school knows so far?
Okay. Yes. So basically, there are three things I would like to highlight. Right. The first one is Schulich's culture. Right. And you can, of course, get a vibe or a sense of it from our social media accounts and if you attend any of our events. But I think Schulich's culture is amazing. And what I mean by that is our alumni, our current students, faculty, staff, they go above and beyond to help you. Right. And you will feel it from day one, actually, the moment you start applying, the moment you start reaching out to us, the moment you start connecting with people from our alumni network, you'll see that they're genuinely interested in going above and beyond to help or support candidates who are, of course, considering Schulich School of Business, right? So that's one thing that really stands out. And I've felt it myself, and I've, of course, received good feedback from others as well, right? That's the first thing I want you to know. The second thing is when we talk about customizable MBA program, right? Yes, there are specializations, there are courses, but at Schulich, it's truly customizable. And what I mean by that is, of course, you can specialize up to 2 areas of business, and you have 18 specializations to choose from. So that's one way to approach it. But the other thing that we also offer is the flexibility, where you just pick and choose courses from multiple specializations. Right, that's the first thing. Second, you can just do an individual study with a professor. Let's say you're passionate about, I don't know, something in the field of research, right? Marketing research or analytics research. And if there's a faculty member who is working on that, they would love to have you do an individual course study with you, right? That's one way to customize your MBA. Third is you can also think beyond Schulich. And what I mean by that is York University. Right. So if you'd like to combine 1 or 2 courses, 6 credits, I believe, is the max you can take outside of Schulich. So you're able to do that. Right. So the focus is on learning, focuses on, helping you become a truly global business professional. Right. So I think that's one thing that I don't think it's very obvious on the website. And of course, there are study tours, other leadership programs, etc., that you can also opt for to make it a truly global MBA. Right? And last but not least, and you must have heard about this strategic field study that we offer, 601 project. And one thing I want to highlight here is it's not a quick 4 to 8 week project where you just do some research, do some interviews, and present your findings. It is where you actually act like a consultant. You work with a client, you meet with a client on a bi-weekly basis, right? So you're solving a real business problem for a real client, and it goes on for 8 months, right? And I think that experience our students value the most. Again, it's on the website, it's there, but just wanted to highlight because that's something that's super unique to Schulich, and students love it.
Right. And especially important for people who want to kind of switch industries, move into consulting or a similar project that they end up doing.
Correct.
Right. Yeah. So coming on to the admission side of things now, so what is it that you look for in a candidate? Any stark, traits that are a must-have or something along those lines?
Yeah, absolutely. So I have 4 things here that I would like to highlight or discuss. The first thing that we look at, and personally that I look at, and this might sound very obvious, but trust me, most candidates don't, right? And that is a strong why. Like why you want to pursue an MBA program. Again, like I said, it sounds very obvious, but then we want the students or the applicants to tell us a very good story, right? Don't say, this is where I'm coming from, this is where I want to go post MBA goals, and Schulich MBA would help me achieve those goals. Yes, that's like logical, obvious, but then tell us a good story, like focus on your why. That's very important and core of your application. The second thing that we look at is leadership skills. Again, you don't need to have a title to be a leader. You have to share examples where you have shown leadership skills, right? Whether it is taking new initiatives, whether, I don't know, how you went above and beyond your 9 to 5 job to do something to help a team member, right? The third thing is maybe you stepped up as a manager or as a leader when your manager or the leader was away, right? And you navigated through a, challenging week or a day, right? So share those stories. We love people who share stories about leadership skills. Okay, that's the second thing and very important. The third thing that we look at is extracurriculars. Again, sounds very obvious, but we want to see whether you just stick to your 9 to 5, like I said, as I mentioned, or did you go above and beyond? Did you give back to the community? Right? So I think those are the 3 things that we look at. And last but not least is, what are you truly passionate about? Right? It could be marketing, it could be traveling, it could be exploring, it could be tech, AI, right? We really want to have students in the classroom who are passionate about something, right? And that's something that comes out when you're interviewing, within 5 to 7 minutes about the student or the candidate. Right. So those are the 4 things I would recommend students to think about when they prepare for interview or just prepare their application for any B school for that part.
Right. Totally makes sense and logical. A few of these things would obviously come out only in the interview because the application process is designed in a way, right? So, of course, the goals part is the first essay, and then there is an optional essay that's there. So what is your advice to students on how to approach that particular one in terms of the optional essay?
So optional essay, one thing I would say is that we love reading optional essays. That's the first thing you need to know, right? And the reason being that, again, shows that I'm not saying they're not committed, the others who do not write an optional essay, but this shows that, again, you're really passionate about this thing. You're really committed to sharing more information about yourself. And when I say more, not necessarily saying the same thing, okay, but maybe you take an opportunity to use the optional essay to highlight your leadership skills, right? One solid example, leadership skills, check, right? The second thing that you could do is maybe there is something unique about your profile or application that you would like to share. Please use the optional essay to do that, right? Or we do get candidates or applicants where they would like to clarify something about their background, with there is a gap or some personal issue if they would like to share. Absolutely, that is where you do that. And once we read, we usually bring it up during the interview to dive a bit deeper to discuss if we think it's a reasonable thing to discuss during the interview, right? So I would say use the optional essay to do that. Share additional information, but something that you think is important or unique.
Sure. Thanks for that. And that's a different approach versus a lot of other schools who just use, that essay for only anything that is not explained elsewhere, and it's truly optional. But it's not so much, at least in your case. It's almost a must-have to write, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's correct.
Great. And in terms of the weightage or importance of interview versus the application, so which one would be more, which one would be less, or is it a composite score that you might have at the end in terms of deciding whether to admit somebody or not?
So I would say it's both are equally important, right? Because it's the entire process, right? You start your application, you go through the process, right? And both are equally important. Because but one thing that is different for interview is now we know that hopefully the candidate is more confident because they've been invited for an interview, right? So they have done their part. We love their application. We'd like to connect with them, right? So the confidence level, we think, usually goes up, and that's important, right? And that's good for a candidate, right? But if we look at just the way we look at the application is holistic evaluation. I'm sure most of the B schools focus on doing a holistic evaluation, and that is important because we would like to know everything about you, right? Like who you are as a person, you are as a professional, what are you passionate about? What are you thinking? What is it that you will bring to the classroom? How would you benefit from the classroom? Right? Peer-to-peer learning. Right. So all of that is important. And of course, your resume as well gives us a good sense of your background. But we dive a bit deeper into when we do the interview to understand what's next for you, the why, right? To discuss examples, right? To know you more as a person, right? And give them an opportunity to ask us any questions. That is, again, a very important part of the interview process, right? You should have at least one or two questions and make those questions genuine. Don't just, do it for the sake of it, right? Just focus on, like an interaction, like get to know more about school, right? The question that we started this session with, right? Is there anything that I think I should know as a candidate that's not on the website? That would be a great question.
Right. Sounds good. Appreciate that. And it totally makes sense as well, right? That you go a bit deeper in the interview side of things and kind of decide the motivations behind everything, and you get to know a person also a lot better. And I've truly, from past experience, it has been a behavioral sort of interview that is there, where you go deeper around it to truly know the person. Great. One of the questions people have, and the big one is, okay, there is an option of 2 years in Canada or 1 year in India, 1 year in Canada. Do you view these answers in a particular light, yes or no? And then, in general, if you could shed more light about the structure of the program in comparison to the two, would be great.
So what I'll do is maybe I'll start with the structure of the MBA in India program and then answer the question of how we, the lens that we use to evaluate students or candidates, right? So the way, first thing I want to know is it's the same MBA program. It's just structured differently. So we have only one program, Schulich MBA program, right? The Schulich MBA in India program is just structured differently. That's why it's titled as Schulich MBA in India, right? At the end, you get a Schulich MBA degree, right? That's the first thing I would like to share. The way it works is you do your year one, students do their year one in India at our Hyderabad campus. So it starts in September, term one, term two, and year one ends in April. So September to April, students are here in India at our Hyderabad campus, and faculty fly from Toronto to teach all the core courses. Because year one, term one, and term two is all about building a solid foundation, right? You touch all functional areas of business. So we have faculty members, or of course, top rated by our students who fly to India to teach all core courses. So this happens from September to April. After April, students move to Toronto to pursue an internship in Toronto, in Canada. Right. So September to April, then May, June, July, August, they do their internship in Canada, in Toronto. And then in September, which is fall of next year, they integrate with the year two cohort in Toronto. And that is when they specialize. They do the 601 project, all of spend these 4 months summer to, of course, get to know more about Canada, right? Embrace the culture, get used to the new environment, of course, do their internship, build their network, and confidently start year two in September. Right? That's how the program is structured. And when we interview students and we ask them this question, would they like to be evaluated for both campuses? Don't say programs, we say campuses. Because our focus is always to build strong and diverse cohorts, whether in Toronto or in India. Right? So we want students from diverse backgrounds, we want solid cohorts. One thing that definitely is something that we consider is if you look at the Toronto cohort, you can't have 70% of students from India, right? So there's always a limit of number of students you can admit from a country, right? So I think that's where the number also becomes tricky or comes into picture, right? So we consider that. And then India, we can't have a class full of engineers, right? So we focus on building a diverse cohorts where we have people from different backgrounds. So the way we view when a candidate says they're open to both campuses, we have actually four categories or four buckets that we place there. First is we look at whether they're even a good fit for Schulich. I think that's the first thing, and that's the most important thing, right? Are they a good fit for our Schulich MBA program? That's the first level. That's the first filter. After that, we look at the background that they're coming from, right? And how would they fit into any of the classrooms and how would they benefit from others? Right? The third thing that we look at is if they're open to both, where are we ranking them? Right? Just in terms of, we don't have a particular score as such, but we look at, both quantitative and qualitatively, rank them and then assign them to or admit them to one of the cohorts. I know it sounds a bit complicated, but the focus is, are they a good fit for Schulich? And then we look at their background and how would they benefit from it. If they're open to both, accordingly, we admit them to Toronto or MBA in India. And the four buckets we have is Toronto only, both MBA and Toronto and Hyderabad only, right? And Toronto and Hyderabad, but preference is Toronto, right? Those are the four buckets or categories that we have, and accordingly we place students and admit them.
Okay, interesting. So again, if I
hope that makes sense. Yeah,
it did definitely. Thanks for that. And largely, then the better thing for the Indian students would be to opt for that 1+1, because as you said, right, you can't have a lot of people from India in the Canada cohort right in year one.
So, and it's okay to, be flexible and say, I'm open to both the campuses, because again, depending on where you're coming from, like your background and your post MBA goals, we will assign you the campus or the cohort, right? Better for them to be open to both, and then let the school decide where they would be a good fit. I think that would be my, recommendation.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you for that. And in terms of GMAT and GRE, so how important are these test scores for in the context of the entire application?
So the GMAT is a highly reliable predictor of student performance, right? That's one of the things that we do use to filter. because we get tons of, right? So that helps us filter, and then we do the holistic evaluation, right? Some obvious refusals is what it helps with, but that's one thing. And the second thing is that's again a policy, right? It comes from not just from Schulich but also the Senate, York University, and it definitely helps us understand or measure the skills students need to succeed in today's classroom, right? So meaning it is important. One, we do waive off the GMAT requirement, and that's when a student has cleared all 3 levels of CFA. That's the only time we waive off the GMAT requirement. But other than that, it is important, and we accept GRE as well. We just convert the GRE score to a GMAT equivalent. Right? So it is important, but having said that, let's say, of course, some reason they don't hit 700, what we advise them is don't worry too much. Focus on other parts of your application, because GMAT is just one piece of data, one piece of information.
Okay. Sounds good. So, talking about the opportunities in Canada, how is the job scenario right now? Given US probably is getting into a recession, and which sectors are usually hot right now in terms of Canada, and what's the way future that you're looking at?
Mm-hmm. Great question. So actually, Canada is currently experiencing an all-time high number of job vacancies, and the reason being post-COVID, the demand of goods and services has gone up. Right, that's one of the reasons. But the other reason is again aging population. Right, that's the other thing that Canada, has always been dealing with, and now even more so because people are retiring early. Right. So again, the job vacancy is going up. And last but not least is just those high skills that are in demand, right? That only immigrant population are able to fill. Right. So those are the 3 main reasons why we always say that the job market there is solid, strong for our students. And coming to the hot sectors, and I'm sure you know this if you're following the news and the tech sector. So Toronto's tech sector is booming and the workforce is growing. We all know that. So if you are interested in the tech space, I think Toronto is where you want to be. Right. And I'm sure you must have seen that tech companies are moving north of the US border, right? As they believe the talent pool in Toronto or in Canada is strong and will continue to grow. Right. So the first sector is tech. Second, of course, it's the third largest. It has the third largest aggregate stock exchange. Right. So finance is the other sector that's going and is solid, strong. The third one that I would say is fintech. Right. That again, the startup ecosystem there is really strong because the government is super supportive. They have amazing policies for startups and entrepreneurs, the companies, and just the ecosystem, whether it's education institutions, government, the Bay Street, of course, our version of Wall Street, right? All of them really help students or entrepreneurs build and grow their business, right? So if you're interested in fintech or startup in general, I think Canada or Toronto is where you want to be. And other sectors, of course, consulting, accounting, marketing, healthcare. These are some of the sectors that are strong, growing, stable. Of course, there's anxiety around recession, all of that. But one thing that I know about Canada, having lived there for so many years, eventually it's going to be a very stable, a more sustainable place to be or market to be, right, after your MBA program, especially after your MBA program with a brand like Schulich on your resume.
Definitely, that's the case, and I think it's a great point about US companies moving towards Toronto. Of course, there's one element of skilled labor market plus at a slightly lower cost as well, so it's a win-win for both the places. Then, okay, and coming on to the one of the apart from it, which is the most important question, visa. So, what's happening there? Yes, there were delays. Which happened. So where do you see that element? And the second part is from a student experience standpoint, if they do 1+1 versus 2 years in Canada, how does that scenario differ from a visa standpoint?
Okay. Yeah. So yes, visas, and again, it was all over the news, right? Just in terms of the sheer number of applications and the delay, the refusals, all of that. And we actually had a chance to connect with or meet the High Commissioner of Canada to India, His Highness Mr. Cameron McKay last month, and we did, of course, discuss this, and we got to know that they are processing 10,000 applications per week. That's a lot, right? So I think that is the reason there's been some delay, and of course, COVID and all of this, they're short of staff, right? So now they are in the process of hiring more employees and professionals to help them process the visa applications, especially for students, because again, the number is going to go up, right? COVID, again, people didn't want to take the risk, so I believe they were focusing on fall 22 to be the start, and that's why we saw the number of applications go up. Right. But having said that, the government and of course all the educational institutions, universities, they formed a committee. They're working very closely with the government to help resolve this issue, help ease the anxiety that students or the admitted students are having, right? Whether they're starting in winter or the summer of next year. So that is going to change. It's just in another few weeks. Right, that's on the number and the visa refusal. The second thing, even before I discuss the MBA in India visa specifics, one thing that having been there, done that, one thing that I know is, and of course it's a common knowledge, is friendly immigration policies, right? So just the process, right? Study permit to PGWP, which is post-graduation work permit, to becoming a PR, a permanent resident, and then eventually becoming a Canadian citizen, it's a smooth process, right? You do your part, you fill in the application, you work there, and you just wait and things happen, right? It's a smooth process, less anxiety, of course, as long as you're submitting the right application, the documents, and sharing a strong cover letter with your application, all of that, right? So I think just when you compare it immediately, there's this tendency to compare it with the US and the anxiety levels and the uncertainty there, right? That does not exist in Canada. Right, it's a straightforward, smooth process from study permit to becoming a Canadian citizen.
That's good to know. And about the bridge, about India, 1 year versus 2 year program.
Yeah. Correct. So I'll start with a disclaimer. We are legally not allowed to advise on immigration matters because it is, of course, between the candidate or the applicant and the government, IRCC. We have been running this program for 11 years now, and more than 99% of students of the MBA in India program received a 3-year work permit. And the reason is from day one, you're enrolled in a Canadian institution and you're paying in Canadian dollars, right? That's one of the reasons. The second is the government now understands this program better. Right? They know that it's a twinning program, and the success rate of students, actually MBA in India students, I mean, if you look at the data and if you connect with our Career Development Center, the director there, you would know, and he always shares this during the webinars, is MBA in India students actually outperform the students who directly go and join the Toronto cohort. I don't know, maybe it's fear of missing out and they're like super aggressive in a nice way when they move to Canada, but whatever is the reason, they actually outperform in terms of salary or number of jobs or when they start working after their program, right? So I think that fear of missing out, the anxiety around the visa is usually taken care of, right? And they don't worry once they start the program.
Okay, that's very comforting and good to know about the 99% figure. And of course, it is a natural tendency when you again comes from a place where you feel, okay, India campus might not be as good, and that's why I want to work. Well, but that's truly not the case. Like you said, it's truly a one school, two campus approach, which is being followed. So that's good to know and comforting as well. So that's all I had in terms of questions for you. Is there anything else you would like to talk about or cover?
Yeah, I was thinking about this, and I thought one question that we always get, and one challenge that students from India who or planning to specialize in marketing they face is when they look for opportunities, whether it's internships or post MBA job opportunities, one thing that they struggle with is companies, sharing that or letting them know that, hey, you don't have Canadian work experience, right? Like, how would you excel in the field of marketing? Because you need to know the market, you need to know the consumer, you need to know a lot of things, right? And just doing an MBA might not, suffice, right? So with that in mind, and a lot of my mentees and our students did face this issue, but one of the best ways to prepare for that and navigate to that challenging question is, and I'll share this one sentence: multicultural marketing is going to become the mainstream marketing in Canada soon, right? So you should focus on what is it that you are bringing to the table, right? You're bringing that South Asian lens, that experience, right? That global perspective, right? Let's say, I don't know, maybe you get asked a question during an interview: how would you promote this product? And you focus on, hey, Toronto's population, 55% outside of, they've been born outside of Canada. Out of that, 12% are from India. And this is the number, this is the market share that we have. And I come from this background, and I'm able to talk to them. Right. So I think that is how you position yourself. Right. And start working on and start looking at other ethnicities where you learn more about them. Right. South Asian perspective, Asian perspective. So spend some time researching, spend some time talking to people, and focus on multicultural marketing. Use that with your background and your Schulich MBA degree, right? And of course, what you learn there, like core marketing, strategy, all of that, to position yourself uniquely, right? And that will help you crack the interview and get a good job in the field of marketing in Canada.
That's a great lesson. Even I didn't think of it that way, right? It was always about, okay, it should be a 2-year program so that you get to an internship, understand the market, etc. But given the fact that there will be a lot more immigrants coming in, so you do want to bring in that culture and that mindset as well. So great point on that, Vijender. Thank you so much. Thanks for taking out time. It was, really candid and great conversation. And from the behalf of the students who will be watching this, thanks for all the good work you and your team have been doing. And we are looking forward to more discussions, more engagements in the future. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Manan. Thanks for having me. And I would love to do more sessions, more, I don't know, maybe we pick a topic or so to dive a bit deeper. But this was amazing. Yeah. Thanks so much, Manan.